Chapter 11. Jenni, my little lady. She remembered it like yesterday, the fear upon learning that her mistress, Lady Christine, was leaving the temple for her return into noble society to attend the Royal Academy. She had entered her service as soon as Lady Christine discovered her talent in the arts, specifically dancing and poetry. It was a simple time, allowing her to fully immerse herself in her passion for conceal, much to her delight. It was not until Vilma, another grey shrine maiden in Lady Christine's employ, was nearly tricked into a flower offering by another blue priest that she became at least partially aware of the favour Griefitchen had bestowed upon her until now. It could have been her, taken by that cruel man instead. Thankfully, Lady Christine noticed Vilma's absence and rescued her at the last moment, but Vilma was never the same after the incident. The fact that Lady Christine would be leaving them behind to return to her family was like Verderos pulling them from Slaftram's realm. She could practically feel the greed of the High Bishop, barely concealing Brenvarma's flames in his eyes on her form as he informed them of their mistress's departure. Only Rosina was promised to be returned to her service upon finishing the Royal Academy. It came to no one's surprise, as she was always favoured. But again, Griefitchen showed her favour, as a young baby girl was introduced to the temple as a new apprentice blue shrine maiden at nearly the same time. As a final act before her departure, Lady Christine transferred the service of Vilma, Rosina, and her to the young girl to be her new attendants. The High Bishop agreed reluctantly, and she thanked the gods religiously afterwards for their mercy. She swore to never take her current life for granted again. She would ensure to gain her new mistress's favour, cementing her new position so that she has to never fear those eyes again. The thought of that alone made her shudder. As all three of them shared the burden of becoming vegan milch for their new mistress, Lady Rosamine, none of them could truly bring themselves to complain. She was simply so adorable, even teaching her proved not difficult at all. Even Rosina began to help them with enthusiasm, her eyes sparkling at seeing their young charge explore the world around her. Vilma started to emerge from the shell she created since the incident more and more too. The warmth exuding from the young girl's happy laughter was simply too hard to resist. Additionally, their little mistress absorbed her lessons at an astonishing rate. She even learned the alphabet at the end of her second year and learned to read and write at 3. 3! Their little Meschinora even began to devour any and all reading material she could get her tiny little hands on, forcing them to go out of their way to ask the High Bishop for a book to satisfy her growing search for knowledge. She watched with trepidation as the foul man's eyes took on the same greedy look he once levelled upon her. Thankfully, they liked the lust he directed her way. It was a slight relief. Her next trial of Gluckletet came as their lady collapsed on the way back to her chambers. The following fever nearly robbed her of Dauerleben's divine protection until Vilma remembered her lack of mana dedication the days before. They hurriedly asked permission to borrow the shield of Lady Shetzaria, the divine instrument absorbing her lady's mana, causing her fever to abate. They sighed collectively in relief. Upon awakening and collecting her bearings, her lady immediately showed her concern for them instead of focusing on her own well-being alone. It touched her deeper than she was willing to admit, though the following summon for a meeting with the High Bishop left a sour aftertaste in her mouth. Her lady handled the meeting with a natural grace she could not help but be proud of. In hindsight, she should have expected her lady wanting access to the book room and could only silently sigh in resignation. Of course she would. Escorting her lady to the book room brought her face to face with a statue of the goddess Meschinora, and she was momentarily struck by Verderos again. She looked to Vilma, who had followed them in escorting Her Lady, who had a similar reaction upon laying eyes on the statue. Her focus shifted between the depiction of the goddess and Her Lady multiple times. Oh, she could already see the multiple pictures of Her Lady in the future, Vilma's eyes nearly glowing with a desperate desire to honor Conceal. Maybe Her Lady truly was a divine gift from the gods. An avatar of Machinora herself? She did begin to act slightly differently since the fever, and often made remarks of the gods granting her insight, but that could not be possible. Right? Right? She refocused herself. She still needed to watch over Her Lady. She would not fail in her duty again. She was truly delighted when Her Lady began to show interest in broadening her knowledge in the realm of Conceal. Until now, they covered mostly drawing and some singing lessons only. But now she demanded to extend her lessons to incorporate harpspiel and dancing. She nearly squealed in happiness at the request. Finally, she could dance for Her Lady again, and teaching it to her was truly just an added bonus. Her Lady was simply too adorable as she shut her normal noble smile and began to pout at the sheer volume of extra lessons she and Rosina had added to her lesson plan. She wanted to see it more often, but restrained herself reluctantly. She was sure all of Her Lady's attendants could not hide how proud they were of her handling the meeting the High Bishop had requested. Her graceful handling of Grammaretor's dance was simply superb, as expected of Her Lady. The wide-eyed stares were just adding to her amusement, especially Friend's reaction to Her Lady's lesson plan. What did he expect from a lady as blessed from the gods as Lady Rosamine, honestly? She was slightly shocked by Her Lady's wishes to become the orphanage director. Was she aiming to bring the gods' blessing back to them too? She sure hoped so. She would support Her Lady as best she could. It was only right. And again, she was proven correct in her assumptions. Her Lady not only brought food and new clothes for the poor orphans left in the orphanage, she even organized work for them, aiming to make the orphanage fully self-sufficient. Her grace simply knew no bounds. Even if she tried to hide her magnanimity behind a veil of profit, it was obvious for anyone to see at this point that she truly was a saint sent by the gods to ease their suffering. As Shitsaria picked up her shield in the middle of the harvest festival, it was revealed that someone had assassinated the High Bishop during his trip across the land. Upon learning this, the High Priest was promptly elevated to replace him, but it was the fact Her Lady was chosen to become the next High Priestess that surprised her. By the order of Aub Ernstfest himself, no less. Was he already aware of Her Lady's divinity? She began to worry, but that could wait. For now, she had to follow Her Lady to her newest duty as the High Priestess and acting orphanage director. They needed the old High Bishop's former attendants to go back to the orphanage. She opened the door for Her Lady as they entered the High Bishop's chambers to inform them. Her Lady began to address them as regally as always. "Greetings. Please summon all of the High Bishop's current attendants here. I have important news for all of you." Some of the attendants became openly worried, but most of them seemed to look hopeful. She was right. The old High Bishop truly was a terrible master, it seemed. She sent a prayer of gratitude to the gods internally. It took only a couple of minutes until all of them were assembled. Among them was a small, red-haired girl. Delia, if she remembered correctly. She had to fight the urge to grimace. He even went after children. Disgusting. Her Lady spoke again. "I take it this is all of you? Good. My name is Rosamine. I am the current acting orphanage director, and as of today, the new High Priestess on the Order of Aub Ernfest. Her lady gave them a moment to absorb the information of her position before continuing. I am here to inform you that the old High Bishop was assaulted on his trip in the Harvest Festival. Tragically, this led him to climb the towering stairwell. Because of this, the old High Priest was ordered to assume the position as the new High Bishop, effective immediately, as was I for his old position. Her lady graced him again with a short moment to understand her words. Most seemed happy to escape their old master, but the young girl had become pale as a sheet. Curious. Which means all of you are to return to the orphanage immediately. Please gather your belongings and make your way to— No! The red-haired girl suddenly interrupted her lady with a shout, beginning to run towards her. One of her now former colleagues tried to stop her, but she evaded him due to her small frame. She moved in front of her lady to protect her. She would not allow anyone to lay a hand on her. Curiously, the girl simply threw herself on the ground before assuming a begging pose as she began to cry. Please do not send me back to the orphanage. I will do anything you want, but please don't send me back to that place. Anything but that, my lady. I beg of you, please. She indicated one of the grey priests to restrain the girl. She could not allow her to potentially lash out at her lady. The one who tried to stop her before moved swiftly at her signal, followed by another. Together they took her off the ground and began to take her away. The girl became even more hysterical upon realizing their actions. No! Please don't send me back there! I don't want to go! Let me go! Wait, please. She wanted to scream. Of course her lady, in her endless compassion, would intervene. The priests holding the girl stopped in their tracks upon hearing her lady's command, as they should. Even if a small part of her wanted that they didn't, to not risk her lady any further. Her lady looked at the small red-haired girl curiously. What is your name? Why do you fear going back so much? Please explain yourself to me, if you would. The openly crying girl at least had the decency to answer her lady without forgetting her place any further. I'm called Delia, my lady. I don't want to go back to that horrible place. Never again. I just thought I escaped from there. Please do not send me back there. I beg you to show mercy. I will do anything you want. Anything. She did not like that curious hum. Not at all. Nor did she like the look her lady sent her way now. She sighed loudly, understanding her lady's desire for compassion. She was a saint after all. I guess we have room for another shrine maiden apprentice to join your service, my lady. But please remember, you just allowed 3 other young apprentices to enter your service. I would advise against allowing an unknown girl to enter too. Her lady took a moment to think it over, but she knew it was already a foregone conclusion. She agreed with her before turning back to the crying girl, still being restrained. You are, of course, correct, Jenni. So tell me, Delia, why should I allow you to enter my service instead of sending you back to the orphanage, as I should? There is always the chance for you to become an attendant of another blue priest should you return to it. The girl still for a moment, seemingly thinking hard. She had to thoroughly retrain her to not be as open in the future. I was beginning to be trained in the art of a floralum. I know it's not much, but I will give my best to reach any expectation you have of me. She was being trained in the art of a floralum to become a future flower offering. Her disgust of the former High Bishop only grew more. Even her lady sported a slightly sour expression now. If only they could have spared her from discovering the meaning inside of the temple. I see. You must have been thoroughly abandoned by an halting To think Miss Chinora would need a Flora Looms grace for her kin. I do, of course, expect any attendant of mine to work to the best of their abilities. Anything else? The following moments would dictate if it was possible for the girl to stay in her lady's service, or if she would need to remove her after a sufficient amount of time to spare her lady's feelings. The girl's shoulders slumped, looking down in defeat. I can offer you no more than that, my lady, except my loyalty and readiness to do whatever you demand. She could work with that. Her lady, in her endless compassion, extended her grace to young Delia, of course. Very well. Only Dragonair's viewing will show if you do. I may grant you this one chance. You may show your worth within the next 2 seasons. Do not disappoint me, Delia. Kindly release her, please. The Grey Priest, still holding young Delia, let her down at her lady's command, allowing her to lower herself to her knees before her. Thank you, my lady. You will not regret it, I promise. After that whole debacle, they departed from the premises, returning to her lady's chambers. It was time to organize her departure from there to her new quarters as the High Priestess, which reminded Jenni that she needed to contact Fran anyway regarding a possible change of her lady's lesson plan. Lady Rosamine's and the old High Priest Ascension was sure to change it because of their new duties. She was halfway through organizing the current efforts as another Grey Priest brought them a letter addressed to her lady personally. It was from her lady's birth family, her mother, Lady Rosalind, specifically. She was surely pale as a sheet. Her fingers began to tremble as she held her possible damnation. By the gods, please do not be what I think it is. She took a moment to steel her nerves. She had to bring this to her lady, whether she wanted to or not.